Hey, Drive Time, welcome back. So here's the thing. This is a little different. This is the first time we've ever done this. Last week, we started a video with Johnathan Rios, and he just had so much information to offer us. And the video actually went substantially longer than Johnathan and I had pre-planned. But what we did is we just broke the video into two. So if you haven't watched last week's, I definitely think you need to go back and watch it because there's going to be so much context in that first half that adds value to this second half. So we're going to jump back in where we left off last week, and we're going to continue our time here with Johnathan Rios on Drive Time. Thanks for joining us.
We are creatures of habit, my friend. We love the comfort zone, and the comfort zone loves you, but you must resist it. All right. So I know we're pressed for time. Unless you have a question, I'm going to rush through these last two.
No, go right ahead.
Okay. The fourth primal instinct is called conquer, right? We are designed to conquer and overcome obstacles. All right. And I think it was Leo Tolstoy who said, everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. The way I would put it is, don't go and try to change the world if your own house is not in order. Conquer your own house first, and then spread your horizon a bit, okay? If your own house is out of order, you start there. Start with your bedroom. Make your bed, clean your room, floss your teeth, feed your children, right? Start there. Start small and then build. The first obstacle to conquer is self. Okay. We must aggressively, guys, I want you to hear me on this. We must aggressively attack any impulse that threatens our spiritual, physical, or emotional health. Okay. So some practicalities here. The victim mindset some of us carry. Woe is me. I'm owed something. We must aggressively attack this mindset. It's going to hinder you. Lust. Lust isn't something that just goes away by osmosis. We have to come up with a battle plan. We have to anticipate tonight when everybody goes to sleep, I'm probably going to feel tempted, right? If I have a couple of beers in me, I'm more likely to go act out. You got to anticipate this stuff because the enemy certainly knows what your weaknesses are. Okay. So it's getting not just getting some accountability, but like it's literally giving your phone to your wife if you have to, letting other people chime in daily if they have to. We got to get a little bit more ruthless, I think, is the idea. Dave, you look like you're thinking there, but do you have any questions on that?
No, I'm just processing through it because I'm a huge proponent of accountability for guys. And that requires a certain degree of vulnerability that a lot of guys just don't want to go down that road. Or if they do, many times it's with a guy like you. They go behind a closed door where what they say is going to stay behind that closed door. Rather than, and not that there's anything wrong with that. And there is a time and a place that I think every guy needs to go behind that closed door and work through some junk. But on the day to day, the week to week, the 2 o'clock in the morning, when you're not available, they need to have a brother who knows the history, knows the stressors, knows the tendencies, who you can, hit them up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go, man, I'm struggling with whatever. And they don't need a backstory. They already know the backstory because you've been walking shoulder to shoulder with them. And they know that if you're reaching out, they're all in. There's no question of, hey, can you talk to me for a minute? It's, man, I'm in. And that goes back to the beginning that you were talking about, having guys around you and standing shoulder to shoulder and having those shared experiences. If you're not engaging there, you'll never get to the point where you can have that kind of accountability with anybody.
It's a risk, man. It's like beautiful things are always risky. If you're going to have close friends, you're going to have to get real. That's really scary. You might have to go first and tell them what your struggle is before they open up and tell you what theirs is. So part of it is, I think it's a call to courage. It takes real courage to share your weaknesses. right?
Yeah.
With the right people. You don't just throw that online, like with the right people.
Right.
So that, but listen, right people aren't just going to accidentally show up in your life. You have to go hunt them down.
Right.
That's one of the things, man. Like in community does not happen by accident. And there's a lot of lone wolves out there, but lone wolves don't work. They don't work. They don't make it. Go watch the Discovery Channel for 5 minutes. Which zebra is the one that gets taken out?
The lone zebra every time.
Every time. Which man is the man that gets taken out? The guy who's in hiding, the guy who's not really telling people what's going on inside. That's the guy who implodes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And God bless those guys, man. Because look, we're all battling here.
Right.
So I'm just not pointing the fingers, just going, man, like you need a tribe. I don't actually wish it was that way. Like I'm a lone wolf kind of by nature, but I know me, like I need a tribe or I'm going to implode.
Right.
Okay. Let me just say this. Passivity is probably the biggest feature of the conquer principle. We must listen, guys, we have to ruthlessly eliminate all forms of passivity through assertive action. By the way, the difference between a passive man and an assertive man, a passive man doesn't know what he wants and he doesn't take assertive action to go get it. An assertive man knows he's clear on what he wants and he's willing to put in assertive action, time and effort to go get it. He's in hunt mentality, attack mentality. First, we got to get clear on what we're about, man. Like, what are our core convictions, our core ethic, our core standards? Get clear there, and then be willing to take massive action. You ask most guys what they want. I don't know. I'm not sure, man. Like, take some time, get clear on it, and then move. Take some action steps. Most people don't realize you're far more formidable and capable than you think you are. Sometimes just hearing that from another man, hey, bro, I believe in you. You are formidable. You have what it takes to get the job done. Go get it. You know, you ever have like a strong man just look you in the eye and say that to you? It is powerful. Well, I'm telling you that right now. You have more in the tank. You have what it takes. Be willing to step into the unknown. Go for it.
So let me ask you this from your experience on the therapy side of things. When guys say, man, I don't know what I really want, or I don't know where I want this to go. Do you think sometimes it's a combination of they're afraid to admit what it is that they want, or that they're intimidated by what internally their desire is, and they're just not ready to put that out there for everybody else? Do you see that as well?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. That's part of it. The fear. If I say it, if I share it, and here's an example. I remember many times I would go to, so I played soccer. I'd go to try out for different teams and I wouldn't tell anybody about it because I was afraid if I go there and don't make the team, everybody else will know. They'll know I failed and then they won't love me. That was like my own interpretation. Okay. But right. I think a lot of us carry that. So we don't go for stuff or tell people about stuff because we're afraid to fail. So there's a fear there. But secondly, I think a lot of men, like, they haven't been guided. They haven't been fathered. So we need to be shown the way. Masculinity is bestowed. It's not something you really find by yourself. Like you have to kind of, in a sense, go get it, but you have to be taught it by other men who are manifesting true masculinity. So in some essence, yes, there's fear, but then for some of us, it's like we need to just be shown the way, mentored, guided, fathered.
That's good. So one thing that I like to say is you got to have an old dude. You got to have someone around you that's got more gray hair than you. And if you can't find people with more gray hair than you, then you're the guy the other guy should be looking for. And I think even for those of us who feel ill-equipped to be that mentor, even if you feel like you've screwed up a good portion of your life, just sharing your failures to a younger generation is extremely powerful so that guys don't feel the need to walk down that same road. Even to sit there and say, man, whatever you do, don't do this. Whether it's a bad business practice, bad financial practice, Don't seek solace in a bottle by yourself at the end of a bar. Those are powerful statements that you can share. So I think if you got, and you got the old crown of wisdom going there yourself.
Yep.
That's why I keep the sides short, man. You can tell how much white's there. If you've got that, then you've got something to offer. You've got experience. You've got, a dent in the fender and dust on the tires. You have something to share.
I like that, man. Totally agree. I think a lot of men, they kind of disqualify themselves prematurely. They think, I don't have anything to offer. Well, like you're saying, just sharing your past hiccups with other younger guys, they can learn from you. And then you by default become a bit of a mentor. So I think that a lot of people get thrown off with this idea of mentoring, like it's this official thing. Sometimes mentoring is just being kind to a younger guy and highlighting some of his blind spots or encouraging him in his endeavor. That's a form of mentoring.
Right.
Now, I know we're pressed for time. Here's the last primal instinct, okay? It's just lead, okay? We will either be led or we will lead. A man, in my opinion, is designed to lead, to administrate, to govern, to direct. We see this early on in the garden. God says, hey, here's the deal. Here's the dominion over the earth. Name the animals, direct and govern. Take care of the planet. You're the man for the job. Here's the keys, go do it. Leaders go first, right? They're, in the sense of war, they're the first in and the last out, or they should be, in my opinion. True leaders say what needs to be said. So as men, I'm talking about men, right? Men in leadership. We need to be the kind of guy that can say what needs to be said, even if it's not popular, as long as we're aligned with truth and justice. All right. The buck stops with us as men. There's no excuses. It's extreme ownership. There's so many. By the way, we live in a time where everybody blames everybody else. True leaders take extreme ownership, even if they didn't necessarily do it, but they're in charge. The buck stops with them, right? A passive leader, a passive man is basically just a child. He's not a man. A passive leader is just a child. It's not a man. So I want to highlight two things. We need to be decisive as men. I want to quote one of my favorite war heroes, General Patton. He said, a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. So we need to be decisive, men of decision. We get clear on what we're after. We stop waiting and we go for it. And I think, especially in the Christian community, a lot of men are waiting for a word from God. They're waiting for an audible from heaven before they go engage. And I want to just tell you, read the word, stay true to the scriptures, pray deeply, but move. Move, take action. The world doesn't need more passivity. It needs more action. It needs more assertive men. We need to be teachable as well. And I think it's the Proverbs 15, I think says, plans fail for lack of counsel, but where there's many advisors, you will succeed. So we need to be both decisive, but teachable. So there's this beautiful tension there. All right. So we're driven by conviction. We're driven by core values. And this is the last thing I'll say, Dave. This is very important. So gentlemen, if there's anything you need to write down, write this down. No matter what you do, no matter what path you choose, you are going to be judged. If you decide you're going to be silent and passive in life, you're going to be judged as being a doormat. You're going to be judged as being weak, cowardly. You're going to be judged as being uninteresting and incompetent. If, however, you choose to be assertive, be a man of action, be a man of conviction, then you might be judged as being overly aggressive, mean, hateful, incompetent. The thing is, your critic has 1,000 names for you. So no matter what path you choose, you're going to be judged. So choose wisely. Choose to be a man of conviction. Follow the word of God. Listen to the Spirit of God. You'll do all right.
So I'm glad you kind of wrapping up on the leadership aspect. I think there's a lot of guys out there, at least a lot of guys I've talked to, when you mention leadership, they'll immediately go to why they're not, because, they're an entry-level employee at their job. They're not married. They don't have kids. They're not leading anyone. And, I always kind of push back on that from the standpoint of everybody leads other people. Leadership is nothing but influence, but it's intentional influence. And I think when you, abdicate that, like you're talking about, and just that passivity, your opportunities to lead bypass you. I would even go so far as to say, especially in the church, men who are willing to lead tend to stand out, sadly, because they don't have a lot of competition. Outside of the pastoral staff, you go to any church in America, predominantly what you see are women leading. And I have no problem with women leading, but they should have some competition. And many times they don't, because guys are used to, I work all week, the weekend's mine. Well, none of it's actually yours. If you want to, throw it back to scripture, none of it's yours. You mentioned it's all borrowed time. And how we choose to give that back, I think, is really important.
I agree, man. 100%. It's we got this, guys. We can do this. We can step it up. That's my admonition. Like, no matter where you are right now, we can grow. We can step up our game. So let's go. Time is short. We have one unrepeatable life. It's time to stop making excuses. It's time to move.
That's good. All right. So, Johnathan, and actually I will say to the guys watching or listening is, normally we try to wrap up our videos with what's the one thing you can do this week, to improve in a specific area. And we obviously covered 5 really broad areas, and you gave a tangible in each of these. So I would say for some guys, they need to go back and listen to this, specifically listening for those tangible points. But if you were talking to that guy who is sitting on the couch on the sidelines, he's convinced he's not a leader, he's convinced he doesn't have a story to tell, he's not a mentor, he's not destined to change the world or anything like that, if there was one that you could put your finger on today, or even 2, what would that be that you would say, hey man, first step, just do this for 30 days. And you and I talked about you're kind of in this 75-day window of resetting some things in your life. But if you could tell a guy to do this for 30 days and you feel like it would start to change their perspective and be the first domino into these 5, instincts, what would that be?
I'd say the first step, man, is to put your own house in order. So if you're a single guy, you have an apartment, clean your room, then break out and clean the kitchen, and then start with what is in your immediate sphere. And then the next step is start with your work desk or whatever it is you do for a vocation. You just start small. Small builds into big. Do not despise the day of small things. They will lead you to big things. Most men despise the small stuff, so they don't handle the big stuff well. You have what it takes, but you have to be okay starting with the small stuff, right? That's what I would say. Most men, it's way up here. We need to dumb it down into the little stuff. Start there. Good. It's not sexy, but it's, how do you build a house? You start with a foundation. You're in the process of building a house here. We got to start with the foundation. That's what I would say, man. Start
good.
Small.
Yeah. The big stuff might get remembered, but the little stuff matters.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, Johnathan, I can't thank you enough for being here. I know we went a little bit longer than we normally do, but there's just so much good information here. Guys, the link to Primal Virtues for the Modern Man is going to be in the description of the video. You guys got to check it out, because obviously if in 25 minutes or so we unpack this much information, just imagine what could be in there from cover to cover. Johnathan, thank you for being here. Thank you for spending time with us. Gentlemen, we'll see you next week here again on Drive Time.